Hey, what's going on guys? I'm Mr. Sandman. It's been a while since I made a video like this, or even a video at all. Over the last 2 years, I've been really enjoying the BR mode Uprise, PUBG, Fortnite, and now Call of Duty's Blackout mode. As such, I feel like I have some important insight that I can give in order to improve on some of the glaring issues that the game faces currently. Sure, no BR game is without its issues. PUBG and Fortnite are testament to that. But hopefully if enough people are aware of these issues and make the developers aware of themselves, then they'll get fixed. These can be applied to all platforms, but obviously looting issues, I'll be focusing more on PC for example. So in no particular order, I'm going to go over some of the issues I've found and some possible solutions. I'll make a follow-up video when I find some more. The first issue has to do with the wingsuit. I think the wingsuit should activate without sprinting. It should only account for height, not some requirement for you to sprint. Otherwise it can cause many issues of not activating properly. Use the same activation method as what happens when you exit a helicopter. No sprinting required. Additionally, I think they should bring back the wingsuit glitch or exploit that the PC enjoyed for a short time. Quite honestly, it provided some of the most fun experiences I had in this game. I will go into more in depth as to why it should return in a separate video. But obviously the activation at any height was a bit ridiculous. However, the height system for activating the glider in Ring of Elysium would be a good template for the developers to go off of. It made it the most fun class to use in Ring of Elysium, gliding from rooftop to rooftop, engaging gunfights really quickly, allowing you to get out of situations that you wouldn't normally be able to get out of. I'm sure it would bring with it the same controversy that the Fortnite redeploying of the glider had. Many people don't like it because it allows people to just run away.
That's what I thought, boy. Of course you're gonna run away. Why? Because you have a freaking glider! And I use all my mats fighting you just for you to glide away. What a fantastic gaming experience.
Whereas the people who are in support of it like it because it makes the game more fast paced. I'm more in the camp that it's a good thing for the game because it keeps the pace of the game quite high, and that's very good for me because I like fast paced game modes. But again, it would have to be adjusted and that would be up to the developers. Moving on to the inventory and looting system on PC. I believe they should take a note out of PUBG's book. Bring in tab looting. None of this having to press F on a body. Just let us press tab and all the loot is there. As of right now, you have to be looking slightly down as well to press F on the body mostly. I want to be able to look horizontally so I'm ready if I'm ambushed. Well, you might say, well, what if there's more than one body in a single spot? Easy. Just allow to scroll through the loot. Of course, this would require a whole rework of how the looting works with the inventory. Again, make something similar to PUBG. 2 columns to one side. One is your loot, and one is what is in the vicinity. Another thing that needs to be redone is the order of the loot. Not only is there no order, but there is no useful information that comes with it. All you get is a picture. You have that information for your loot, but not what is on the ground or in the stash. An order of loot needs to be inputted too, with healing at the top and ammo at the bottom, etc. Just rip off PUBG, I don't give a fuck. Also have both guns showing so I can put attachments on both. There is enough room. I don't know how to fix this, but nonetheless it's an issue. And that's when you have 2 weapons and you want to try and pick up ammo off the ground. Instead, it'll pick up the weapon instead of the ammo. You can be looking directly at the ammo and it'll still choose the weapon. I'm not sure how it prioritizes which one it picks up. Personally, I think it should be the closest one or the one you look at directly. To outright negate this issue, tab looting again should be introduced. Despite the fact that recently patch notes pointed to the fact that they fixed audio issues in Blackout, lo and behold, they are still an issue. I'll just list a few. Firstly, inconsistent footsteps. What do I mean by this? Well, directionally, they're all over the place. I've played PUBG, so I'm pretty adept at using footsteps to my advantage. Not in this game though, they're so janky. Not only this, but they sometimes don't even register. It's like the game has a certain number of audio cues you can play at once, otherwise it just straight up disables some of them. And before you start saying, well, they had dead silence, that might be the case, but that still shouldn't be the way the perk functions. They should revert back to how the perk functioned in the old days. Without the perk, enemy footsteps were really loud. But with the perk, they were muffled. Not silent or gone, just muffled. Same goes for the awareness perk. It should heighten the sound, not make it so you feel like you have schizophrenia and you hear footsteps all around you. Awareness completely ruins your sense of perspective as to the distance, only really being useful in the knowledge of people are within 50 meters of you, and becomes sort of a hindrance. Personally, I believe that teammates' footsteps should be muted entirely in a game so focused on enemy footsteps. For going this, at least make teammates' footsteps a quarter of what they are now. They are just too loud. As of right now, they are almost twice as loud as enemies. Following this, make the enemy footsteps the same volume that you have your teammates' footsteps now currently. I think this would fix the issue. As a result of my really loud footsteps, I have to resort to jumping around the whole map in order to be able to get the chance to hear my enemy's footsteps. This is very closely related to the PC version, and that is keybinds, or the lack thereof. It's very clear that very little time was invested into the PC version when porting the Blackout mode. I'm not blaming Beanox, obviously they were not given much time. Regardless, I have some suggestions. First, and most importantly, keybinds need to be given to allow certain actions of specific items, for both healing and equipment. For example, a keybind for general healing is the X key, then allow for 3 more keybinds: first aids, med kits, and trauma kits. A good way to cycle through all your healing types in your inventory would be to use the scroll wheel. Say up on the scroll wheel. The same thing could be used for the equipment, and then you would use down on the scroll wheel. As for equipment, allow for keybinds for each. As there are a lot of different types and only a certain number of keys in close proximity, or maybe you have 9 macro key mouse, I don't know. It would be difficult to allow a macro for all, I get that. Still, I think the keybind option should be there, and thus it will be up to you to choose which one will be most useful for you to have quick access to. For me, that will be concussions and cluster grenades. To combat the issue, maybe have a category keybind button, i.e. a keybind that activates throwables, one for tactical grenades, one for passive equipment, etc. Additionally, this is something I always beg for in PUBG, that never came, mind you, that ROE had, and that is quick scope switching. For example, if you're like me and like to use a 4x in conjunction with your red dot on your AR, then you know switching can be a hassle. First, you have to make yourself vulnerable by going into your inventory. Then, you have to search for the scope. Remember, there is no order in Blackout's inventory. Then click the scope, losing precious time. Thus, I would like them to add a keybind that quickly swaps whatever scope is in your inventory to your current gun that's in your hands. Alternatively, copy ROE and have a second slot to place the scope on your gun. A further solution would be to have that dual scope that existed in Modern Warfare 3. That would be my least favorite implementation. Those scopes always obscure your screen. Armor, a very controversial topic in both Blackout and multiplayer. I believe this issue lies in a large part due to the fact that it takes a lot of bullets to kill someone, but armor durability really needs to be addressed. Again, they said they fixed this. I see no real improvement on this front. I think you should still be able to have armor after more than one encounter or gunfight. And that just doesn't happen 99% of the time in Blackout. Again, this pains me to admit, but PUBG's method and way of having armor durability function worked very well. If something similar to that could be done for this, then that'd be perfect. Additionally, to make matters worse, you always seem to have to kill someone's armor to kill the person. So when you loot, you will very rarely loot their armor. Can't wait for people to tell me to just aim for the head, lol. Personally, I think armor should be removed entirely. but I know that won't happen. I just like cultivating a competitive environment around fair gunfights. And a gunfight in which someone has level 3 armor and you have no armor, because you've been in 5 gunfights before this, it just breaks me sometimes. Especially when camping playstyles cultivate this mentality to preserve armor to the final circle. Thus, making armor more durable would mitigate this a bit, I believe. A further solution, which I'm sorta okay with, but it wouldn't be my first choice, is for people to drop armor pieces upon killing them, and you would collect 3 of these to make a complete armor piece. To me, this is just a bit too tedious. Now, I know I'm gonna get called out for this, but I think people are very inconsistent bullet sponges. To top it off, I'm not really sure if there's bullet drop off at distance. There really shouldn't be in a BR game mode. I know they do that for multiplayer, but it does not belong in a BR mode. Again, like I said earlier, removing armor I believe would help address this inconsistency a lot. There are just so many variables of fuckery in this game. The 20Hz servers, meaning that some bullets just won't register and will get lost in a packet, or you'll be damaged twofold due to a super bullet, the different fire rates and damages of guns, the inconsistency of hip firing. Although I can't talk too much shit about this, it is meant to be less accurate than ADS. I just feel the less that is out of your control, the more fun and competitive Blackout will be, and will instead come down to your gun skill and not what armor or weapon someone has. Of course, the other side will just say that is part of the BR genre. It is inherently RNG based. I don't know if this was purposely done or just because the beta had less guns overall, but the lack of bolt action snipers is just sad. They're just a fun gun to use and I barely see them. I believe they need a loot table buff and a buff overall with more damage. The SCM just outclasses all of them. 2 shots if you have no armor or 3 if they do, and they're gone. It fires fast too with little to no recoil. I'm surprised it hasn't been nerfed yet. I just want to have fun though with my outlaw and jump shot. Also, it should be noted that the sniper scope on the Paladin is bugged as of right now and is blurry if you use the low texture quality settings. So don't use that scope. I prefer the 4X anyway, so that's not a big deal for me. This baffles me that not a single BR mode has worked out how to code vertical 3D sound. It is most evident to see this issue if you land near construction. If you're at the very bottom and there is someone above you, say at the top, they will sound like they're on the same level as you. It's really frustrating and creates unnecessary paranoia as you try to determine what level they are on. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get called out for having bad aim, but I believe that shotgun spreads are just very inaccurate and don't reflect where I'm aiming. Bullets just do not register sometimes and just go into thin air. For me at least, the scope variations that occur between guns are a bit distracting and obnoxious. I would prefer it if you could turn it off and just have the same sniper scope for all snipers, for example. I think as Blackout isn't as realistic as PUBG, introducing a ping system similar to ROE would be a good addition. I always hate when the game circle ends in this desert area. It is just so full of clutter and unnecessary colors, it makes it very difficult to spot people. To top it off, the cover is just terrible. I really believe reducing the number of shrubbery and grasses would help performance and help playability in this area. I don't know why, but there are a lot of FPS drops in open areas that I'd expect to perform the best, considering there isn't a lot going on. Like, I'd expect to have bad FPS in Rivertown, considering all the buildings and such. Perhaps the rendering of the grass and trees is more intensive than I first thought. It's quite clear to see here as I look south, the game is choppy, and as I look away, it's smooth. It also sometimes has a weird quirk that it'll look like a slideshow, but the FPS has not been visually tanked. It's weird. I think the spawn rate of gold guns needs to be buffed a little. They're just too rare at the moment. Sometimes I'll get headshots when I should be hitting their body. Something is up with either the hitboxes or the sniper scope alignment. Either way, it's not right. Concussions and 9bangs are too overpowered. Concussions to a lesser extent. I believe they should function similar to how they did in previous CODs. The 9bang should blind you, but you should still have complete function of your character. Able to sprint, ADS, prone, crouch, turn fully, use equipment, all while blind. whereas with the concussion, you should be able to do all that, but your turning speed should be reduced. None of this inability to ADS or prone. Learn from the past, do not try to change the wheel. This one is small, but I'd like the grapple to work from further away. And when you pick another one up, they should auto stack, not make a separate stack. Kill cam needs a lot of work. It is so useless unless you want to check for cheating. I want it so that they have all their perks, health, armor, equipment, etc. Basically a normal UI of the enemy. Most important for me is to see how low I got my enemy and if they snuck up on me with dead silence or if the game's audio was at fault. I do like the auto drop weapon and attachments, although I would prefer a keybind to only drop the attachments and not the weapon also. I think there should be an auto equip keybind that puts your attachment of your current weapon onto the one that you pick up. There needs to be a real brightness adjuster, not this placebo shit. The characters just melt into the shadows in this game. I've tried everything to help myself see better in the dark spots of this map. I cranked the in-game brightness, it does nothing. Turned off the shadows, it does nothing. I cranked my display brightness and contrast and turned on game mode. It's still so very hard to see people. I really think that the dust that appears as you try to shoot people at distance should be removed. It's already difficult enough to hit people. Don't make it harder by allowing them to ninja vanish in a plume of smoke dirt. The dust is bigger than the character model. It's pretty ridiculous. I think that auto mantle should be able to be either disabled or given a separate keybind. Sometimes I want to be able to get on top of a small edge, instead my character will decide to mantle over the entire thing. Even if you look parallel to the wall, it will still auto mantle. Thus I think a separate keybind would be very much appreciated. Now I'm sure I've missed a few and you'll let me know very kindly in the comments. Like I said, I'll probably make a follow-up to this one covering more issues if a significant number emerge. I might also discuss fixes to these issues if they ever happen. Now just remember, me pointing out these problems is out of love for the game, not just shitting on the game for the sake of it. I just want to try and help make the game the best possible version it can be. Cheers, thanks for watching guys, I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like and subscribe.